Alright, I'm hoping this is coming through loud and clear. I'll give everyone a little minute to tune in, and then we're going to run through the good and the bad. And I think you're going to enjoy what I've got to say tonight. We've got some very exciting scenarios to discuss. And it looks like
enjoy what I've got to say.
We are coming through nice and clear. So I'll keep an eye on these comments. Awesome. So guys, as always, give everyone a little minute to tune in, smash that like button, share these videos around. If you're rewatching this later, feel free to skip forward a minute or two. And I'm going to run through, mainly price action. Well, not really. We always talk about a combination of everything, don't we? But I really think we're on the precipice of that full-on bull mode. And that's very, very exciting. Something that we haven't really had for a long time. This run up here, this was kind of a recovery. Let's get rid of some of this clutter. Get rid of all my, these were my scenarios. We'll get rid of those. But you guys know that that blue scenario we just looked at has played out really nicely. So yeah, this strong move here was great, but that was a recovery, wasn't it? This move here in hindsight was really a whale-driven pump, particularly once we broke through 6K because we had too many shorters. And back in 2017, we had that parabola. But now it looks like things are just lining up perfectly. And I want to talk about what I see going on with the big traders on Twitter, some of the other YouTubers, influencers, macro commentators. I guess that's probably my job, or what I love doing the most, is bringing all those pieces together and painting a picture for you. And it would be nice if we get to make some new all-time highs live on this video. And I do have a trade on at the moment. And look, to be honest, I think that Bitcoin is sucking a lot of money out of other things at the moment. I just tweeted a little bit about that, and the way we watch that is Bitcoin dominance. And if Bitcoin dominance is going up, this tells us that there's money flowing basically out of alts. And if we do total 2, this is the total market cap excluding Bitcoin. So let's see if that's still trending higher or that's actually started to drift lower. This is what I'm talking about. $20-30 billion has come out of alts. That's a lot of that's paper wealth. It's not actually $20 billion. But I think I've spoken about a number of times, well, for members at least, about how this money flows between A and B. And we've been very lucky with how we've nailed a lot of this year in terms of getting a real boost and enjoying that ride we had on, let's bring this up on full screen, the ETH BTC pair. This was a tremendous trade breaking out of this falling wedge. Now it's giving a little bit back. And this is something that's super important to watch, whether or not Ethereum BTC pair breaks this level and breaks down. And if that happens, I think even more money is going to probably go towards Bitcoin. This is always a really good gauge for what's happening. And this was our little retest here. That was our signal to start to get aggressive on alts and the DeFi alts. And like clockwork, a lot of the retail traders and the YouTubers and influencers started to jump on that DeFi trend, didn't they, in July, August, September, when it was not the time to be buying. This is when we were taking profits. So I'm going to talk about what I see coming next, the big opportunities. Can we go to $100,000, or are we going to actually have a little pullback? But it would be great, wouldn't it? We haven't had one of these for a long time, and we break out to new multi-year highs live on a video. So that's the mark there, around 12.5. It's around 11.9, 11.8, and then not much to 14,000. I think we can get there pretty quickly, but let's enjoy this first. But I want to show you about the comparisons to 2018. Well, I might keep that on the screen for you. And down the bottom, let's put that on down the bottom. 5-minute chart for you to enjoy, and then up the top, let's see, is that going to let me do it? It is. Fantastic. All right, so up the top, we're going to have a look at what happened in the past, and down the bottom is the 5-minute chart, so you can keep watching that now. So back in 2017, what this is kind of reminding me of is the sentiment we had at the time as we were heading into this early stages of the bull market. So this was crypto winter back in the end of 2015, and a lot of people thought, is Bitcoin dead? Is it ever going to come back? None of that was guaranteed at the time. Let's just hide all that for you. All right, and so we finally had this bit of a run up, another big sell off, get back towards $1,000, hit those old all-time highs again, another pullback. People are still fearful. This was the disbelief stage that we're kind of in at the moment, where people are thinking, is this real? Surely we can't keep going up. We've just gone from, here to here in a relative short period of time, almost doubling in price. A lot of people that didn't keep up with the technology or got burnt, they'll want to sell here. They'll want to sell if they ever get back to break even. So that's where you see wicks here and selling pressure here. But then it takes off. And this is where a lot of you will remember, it's probably where you started to find Nuggets news for the first time. And it was really enjoyable. This was a parabolic rise at the time, going from $1,000 to $3,000. And a lot of small investors kind of forget that there's big fish out there that are putting in $100,000, $1 million. And if you triple your money in a couple of months, that doesn't happen in the stock market, very rarely. So, you put in your 100,000, you turn it into 300. A lot of people sold. And this is where we get the first pullback. So there was a number of 30 to 40% pullbacks during this period, as you can see here on the chart. So the first one was all about the fear of the unknown around SegWit and the Bitcoin hard fork. Were we going to upgrade Bitcoin? Was that going to go down peacefully, or was there going to be a chain split? Now, as you know by now, or you might know, that's how we ended up with Bitcoin Cash. And we didn't get the both halves of that agreement. We got the SegWit upgrade, but we didn't get the 2x. So we didn't upgrade from 1 megabyte blocks to 2 megabyte blocks. That would have required a hard fork. And even though we had at one stage over 90% of miners saying, yeah, happy to do it, it's just too high of a risk that something might go wrong. And we didn't end up going through with that. And that's when we kind of had this chain split. Now, after that, I think my message there was, you can go back and watch these live videos, and they're probably two of my favorite videos of all time, if those of you that do remember. And my message here was, do not panic. You're actually going to get both coins. A lot of people didn't realize how any of this works. And I said, you're going to get Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And both communities are finally going to be happy that they can go and do their own thing. So it's probably going to rally them both in price a fair bit. And obviously that played out nicely. Now we get to this phase here where there was a lot of fear around China. China banned ICOs when all the ICOs were getting a little bit out of hand. There's a lot of scams in China at the time. Then they wanted to clamp down on exchanges. All those different rumors, have they banned crypto altogether? Were they going to ban mining? All those different rumors. And you hear the term FUD, but it stands for fear, uncertainty, and doubt. A lot of people think FUD stands for, things that are untrue, people trying to scare people. But there's a lot of people that were really fearful here of the unknown. They're uncertain, and there's a lot of doubt about their investment because they don't understand the tech or anything like that. So again, another sharp, nasty correction that was just a fantastic buying opportunity where coins change hands from those that were punting and speculating and didn't understand it, to those that had conviction, they're happy to buy here. Now, the other thing that happened at this time was a lot of technical traders that came from traditional backgrounds, they've never seen these sort of assets that triple or go up thousands of percent like the altcoins. So a lot of people were trying to call the top here. And once again, calling the top here. I don't want to pick on Tone Bays. He's challenged me to a DeFi debate, I think. A lot of you said not to waste my time on that one, so I'm not sure if I'm going to do it or not. But a lot of traders, again, just in disbelief that the market can go from $1,000 now up to $8,000. Big red candle, 30% sell-off. But by this stage, you've got new people coming into the market that don't really care about charts and patterns and candles and all those different indicators that you and I might look at. So you've got to keep that in the back of your head that when the bull market gets started and there's just a wave of new money coming in, a lot of the stuff that we look at can go out the window. And that's where it actually becomes more important to kind of look at this on-chain data. So I just tweeted then about crypto.com. I'm a little bit dubious with some of the stuff that they're up to. So crypto.com claimed they've got 5 million users. You guys know they've cut their rewards, and that is something that I kind of spoke about that was likely to happen because they're just paying out such huge amounts of this token that they've got a heap of. I think they own like 80 or 90% of it, or 80 or 90% is either in their treasury or on exchanges. So a tiny percent is actually held by real investors or real people. And so when they claim to have 5 million users, I went over to Glassnode and Sentiment to look at this on-chain data. And they've got total number of addresses, 69,000 on, that was on Glassnode. On Sentiment, I think it was around 50,000. And then you look at active addresses, around 500 people a day. So that's just, it happens a lot in crypto, doesn't it? But I just don't really know if I believe those numbers. And where there's smoke, there's fire. You can't just keep giving out those high rewards and then remove that other token. The fact they even had that second ICO in the first place was a little bit of a red flag, I thought. A lot of the cards and the reward systems, I just think that you might pay $200 or you've got to hold $10,000 of tokens to maybe get $100 or $1,000 worth of reward. And I'm sort of the person that just does the math on those sort of things, and there's nothing, none of it adds up to me. None of it makes sense. So yeah, be a little bit careful there. I'm always really honest and transparent with you guys about everything, and look, hopefully that's appreciated. Sometimes it might get me in trouble being too honest, but look, they were one company that approached us like they approached everyone. They've got a really generous affiliate program where they pay you out huge amounts of CRO, and maybe that's why it's not spoken about as much, because basically everyone, aren't they? There's most influencers promote CRO. Let's have a look if we can see any cycles on the daily. Start of each month. I'm just wondering if it's the start of each month when people get paid. And so, the first week of August, you see a dump. First week of September, you see a dump. First week of October there. Not so much. Oh yeah, just July. Anyway, I'm not 100% sure about that, but ever since they cut their rewards for stakers, that was basically the only thing it had going for it. But even that, people fall for these tokens that give you out huge returns in their own native token. And basically they're giving you something that they got for free, that they've printed out of thin air. And as soon as the narrative turns, and people realize that what they've got is actually not really has any value, then look at how quickly people have kind of run for the exits here. So I guess this is more just a warning sign for me, for people that have money locked up, because as I said a little while ago, they have started to make it kind of hard for people. or you hear stories about bad customer support, or they told people they only get this bonus if you re-lock up tokens for 6 months. All those things are just red flags. And I'm not saying it's a pure Ponzi scheme like BitConnect or Your Side Tech or anything. And there's even some of these, the coin thing that's floating around Australia at the moment. Maybe those people are innocent people. They don't know what they're doing is fundamentally flawed. But it's these schemes that they're guaranteed to fail mathematically. And it normally takes a year or two to happen. They need to grow to a little bit bigger size. Once there's a fair bit of money circulating, and it just collapses on itself because it doesn't have any value underpinning it. Okay, so enough of that. A little bit of a tangent, but let's go back and talk about the sentiment here. Thank you to everyone that's tuning in. We've got 750. We've only got 120 likes though, guys. Can we get that up a little bit higher? Thank you for the donation, Izzy Saripi in CHF. Thanks for the honesty. No problem at all, mate. Thank you for the super chat. We don't do these too often, so I do appreciate it. Okay. So let's talk about my experiences in these previous bull markets. So let's bring that 5 minute back for you so you can watch that. Okay, so this is the weekly chart. I was talking about how a lot of the traders are trying to call the top and saying, we're extended here. Let's bring up a few of our indicators that we like to use. Oh, no, sorry. I'm going to have to go on my other chart quickly. So things that I like to use, things like Bollinger Bands, the RSI down the bottom. Markets tend to top when we get overbought on the weekly. Tick, we had that. Sorry, you can't see that very well there behind me. So overbought on the weekly RSI. We're also at the top or outside the standard deviation of our Bollinger Bands. This might look better on log chart. No, it doesn't. Okay, you can see that a little bit clearer now. So these are all reasonable decisions to make, to say, you know what, this is fairly overbought. And you know what, if you took some profits there and you're a good trader, it came back perfectly to the midpoint here and you could have got back in. But this was hard to get in at the time. It felt really wrong. It was scary. All those typical emotions that very few traders actually get to sell there and buy there. It might only be a day or an hour or a minute that price is here. And so it appears like this on the chart, but in reality, most people are at work, they're asleep, and they wake up and they see the price has done this, that, or the other. So that's why I guess my message from everything I'm going to talk about tonight is that most people should have their bag of coins that they hodl long term as a core position. Unless you're a full-time trader and you know what you're doing and you're only going to trade, have that core position and never sell all your Bitcoin. Even at 20,000, you should only ever sell, if all of your coins is 90%, then fine. But you never know when it's going to keep going. And a lot of people sold at 3, a lot of people sold at 5,000, 4,000, thinking, I've called it. That's the top. The bubble's popped, and they've, on their charts, they've got these lines saying that we're going back down to here. And once again, pull back, aggressive buying, and all the technical analysis in the world can't account for a true bull market. When the stampede comes, the herd comes, the money comes. Once again, another pullback here, and then just look at that bullish engulfing Marabazoo, one of my favorite candles, to 8,000. And again, at the time, people are going, "Oh, look at this chart. It's parabolic. It's off the charts." Pardon the pun. Can't possibly keep going higher. And then in hindsight, they just become these little blips. And once we got that momentum, just look how quickly we went from 5,000 1 week, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks later, we're at $20,000. So that's the momentum. At the time, back here, I remember this clearly because Bitcoin topped on my 30th birthday. And not only that, it was the day that futures launched. And so a lot of people were fearful about futures and thinking that Bitcoin's going to be manipulated like gold and silver. I don't think that was really what happened. It was more the fact that there was just a good way to short. So BitMEX and those platforms had been around. Bitfinex had been the main platform for the past few years up until now. Bitfinex only used to let you short and long up to 3.3 times leverage. And so 100x exchanges kind of, we had them in China. You heard about them back in the early days, but I didn't know anyone that was trading on them. And then BitMEX came along, and again, it was no KYC. It was deposit only Bitcoin, trade against Bitcoin. All that stuff was just so sketchy that I wasn't interested in that back in the day. Leverage trading has really changed in recent years. All right, so this is, I guess, the story now of when we do top. What was different this time to back here? Like, how could we tell that this was the top and the other times weren't? Look, these did have a lot of the signs of topping. So things that I look for, divergence between price and different indicators. So as you can see here, the relative strength is going down. Another one that I don't mind using just as a complement is on balance volume. So let's drag this up. Is that a little bit of a hidden? Okay, let's bring it up to the top. So on balance volume is basically telling you, well, on the balance of everything that is happening, is volume going up or down? Is money going in or out of the coin or the stock? So what we can see here is on balance, let's bring out our little lines again. On balance, volume is going down. Even though price is still going up, volumes are going down. So they're the things where you start to, tick your boxes. This is our momentum indicator. This is that proprietary one that I was working on with a developer that kind of hit a bit of a dead end, and he kind of stopped contacting or communicating, and just neither of us were really happy with exactly what it was, and I don't think he was interested in still developing it. But look, there's a lot of similar things. There's some free ones, there's some paid ones. A lot of these momentum indicators will sort of tell you when things are crossing, when momentum is crossing or moving averages are crossing. Let's bring up some of the higher time frame moving averages. So this is probably the one to tell you that we were still riding the moving averages and we were still trending up. Quickly, let's just have a look at the other downturn here. Once again, this had our divergences. Divergence, and this one still had the volume going up this time. Okay, so that was a bit of a clue that maybe we were still heading in the right direction. And then this top here, again, we've got RSI diverging. So these are all the things that we look for clues. On top of that, we want to be looking at things like exchange signups. So some of you will remember at the time Coinbase talking about how they had, I think it was 50,000 people a day signing up at that stage. So these are the sort of things where, yes, we are getting the signs that a top might be in, but you've got to now start to look at those other metrics to tell you that technicals go out the window. So they're great tools to have, but if the herd is coming, the stampede is coming, then they're going to keep charging in and buying. They don't really care what your indicators are saying. Now, finally here, this is on the daily. I think we got a really big divergence even on the weekly time frame. So once again, divergence, sell signal here rolling over. On balance volume was still trending up. Okay, that is interesting. Still no rolling over from the moving averages, but let's just check quickly what that looked like on the weekly chart when we topped. I think we did. Let's bring RSI up to the top. Do we have a hidden divergence there? Not quite. Not quite. All right. So they're the sort of things that I want to look for to try and pick a top in future anyway. It's the same at the bottom. We did have a nice divergence there on the bottom. All right. So how does that all compare, everything I just spoke about, to the current situation we find ourselves in? Let's get rid of those moving averages. The guppy's another good one just for momentum, where that didn't flip red at all during that bull market. And now the guppy's green as well. Okay, we'll get rid of that guppy for you. So how do we compare here, and what's really important to understand what's happening at the moment? During 2018, 2019, this run went too far, too fast. And some of you will remember the video I did talking about how the traditional crypto winters looked something a lot more like, like this, where it's this accumulation pattern, maybe even one more final low, something like that, and then you start to make your way up. But what we had was this huge push a lot earlier than would be expected because of those cycles. Do I have my... Let's bring my cycles up for you. Let's get rid of unbalanced volume. Let's make that a little bit smaller for you. Let's put this on a log chart and let's get rid of the Bollinger Bands. Alrighty. And we might even go to a 1 month chart. Okay. So these are the cycles. If you've watched my videos about the 4-year cycle, the halving and whatnot, you've probably seen these before. Some people like to call them in the comment section the humpy bumps. Now, this is back in 2010-11, some of the earliest data that we have when Bitcoin was a few cents, and we heard the story of a pizza, 2 pizzas being bought with 10,000 Bitcoin. So it's the first time it gets a bit of a monetary value. As always, we get this hype. The people that were investors or hodlers here are going, how crazy is this? I bought these for a few cents. People are now paying $20 or $30 for them, and they start to sell. But stepping back and saying, well, what is the psychology and the sentiment of everything that is happening right now as we speak? There is more people entering the space. And that's where things like trend lines, I think, sometimes people forget that all technical analysis is trying to use a visual representation of what is happening on the charts to try and capture things like human sentiment and psychology. And when we've got an uptrend like this on a log scale, which is exponential, all it's telling you is that the number of people in this ecosystem or money is growing exponentially at this steady rate. And there are times when we get too far away from the average amount of investors and money that are coming in. And there are times where we go below that. And that wick that we had with the COVID stock market crash was probably what you'd consider one of the only times when Bitcoin got stupidly oversold in the panic of everything. So I did those videos for you then on that day saying, hey guys, I'm buying more for my super, for my retirement fund at $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 Bitcoin for the long term. So these are the kind of things that we look for, the cycles. We're still not even halfway to this super cycle, which can go all the way out until we'd expect a bottom before the next halving in January 2023. This cycle went for about 3/4. This one went for over half. This one went from when Bitcoin was invented back in 2009, almost right to the end. So I think the steepness of these is less and less each time because it's harder for Bitcoin to keep growing, 1,000-fold. as the number of people gets bigger and bigger. And we're now into the millions and billions of dollars market cap, but we probably still have another one big cycle, if not two. I think the question is whether or not Bitcoin goes to 100,000 or $1 million. So that is the positive hopium, the bull scenario for you. But I'm just going to double check price on my other screen, make sure we're not breaking out. Yep, okay. So what we're seeing at the moment, if we just go back to our regular charts, what we're seeing at the moment is a lot of traders that missed this sell-off, or they missed the bottom. And so what I've always spoken about is how it's really healthy to have a mix of buyers and sellers and people that aren't convinced that we're in a bull market even. So when we were down here, everyone was talking about how the bubble had popped, and all these bubbles or hyperwaves always go back to where they started. So most people were really fearful, or they generally thought that we're going back to $1,000 Bitcoin. Now, obviously that didn't happen, and there was more people coming into the Bitcoin world, the crypto world, and hopefully most of you know that it wasn't a bubble and it was going to be fine, but it felt really hard. It felt impossible, like you were doing the right thing, being a buyer here. A lot of people bought here, and what we saw in the on-chain data was that they were basically the only people that did sort of sell through any of this period were the people that bought up here. That sell-off, like stock markets, it's probably been amplified by BitMEX. I think BitMEX could have sent the price to zero that day if they hadn't have shut down, but that's all recovered nicely, just like the stock market. So what we find ourselves now is, remember all the people that were saying, oh, if we get a weekly close above, this level here, the key 10,000 mark, I'll be bullish. And then we kind of get that close, and it's just one by one, we keep ticking off all these things, and yet they still say, oh, but we're not quite there. We haven't made a high. We haven't quite got a weekly close above this level here. So what I'm finding at the moment, and you guys tell me what you're seeing, but I'm still finding a lot of traders that are worried that this isn't real, and it's that disbelief almost on the Wall Street cheat sheet that we've been through that whole cycle. We've been through the capitulation, the crypto winter, all the moving averages, everything's had time to reset the emotion and turn back up. We're trending higher, forming these higher lows, and yet there's still some people that are really cautious, and people even talking about taking profits at 11.8k because it might be a resistance. Fair enough, that certainly might happen, but leave that to the traders. If you're a retail investor, I think you are absolutely crazy to be sitting here talking about trying to sell here in case it comes back here. Now, in the next 24 hours, we might find out whether or not the US are going to get this stimulus before the election. And if that doesn't happen, maybe things do get messy on US stock markets. And if that pulls back, hey, maybe we do have another correction in all assets. But if that's the case, does that mean that you are wrong for holding your Bitcoin? No, not at all, because the potential upside that you miss is far outweighed, I think, by saying, hey, I'm going to sell here, or I'm going to wait to see what the stock market does. People are arguing about whether or not it's going to go to $100,000 or $1 million. You've got all these big funds coming in, investing $100 million. It's very clear from what we've heard recently, the way that they had to do that was keep price under certain levels. So when you see these wicks, where every time price gets up here, it gets smacked back down. Now, even in the last few weeks, this is the big boys that have got the orders on their books, and then they can use leverage trading to try and keep price down to, at key levels, at key times, the daily close, the weekly close. They'll keep trying to get that hammer out and hit price back down because they've got big orders that they want to get filled. And I think a really good example of this was recently. So when we had this sharp sell-off here, a lot of people would have said that any of these were dead cat bounces that would keep heading lower. And so every time that we did head lower with each of these wicks, most traders and investors are thinking that we're going to end up somewhere down here. And that didn't happen. And that's what I just feel we've seen a lot of that recently, even on this bounce when we finally got it, and people are saying, heading lower. Or Credible Crypto did a good video the other day about the Elliott wave traders and how they looked for these 1, 2, 3 moves to the downside. And again, they were all looking for a move to come back down to here, and it didn't happen. And what that tells me is that there's so many buyers, whether it's the institutional guys, whether it's just a steady trickle of retail investors. I've certainly noticed it. In our paid group, so we're up to 4,000 members. We had 1,200 at the start of the year, so we've more than tripled in size. So it's very clear that there are people coming into the space. So it's always interesting for me to sit back and watch where these certain traders are talking about, I'm going to sell my coins and move to the sidelines because this is a weekly resistance level. And yet, look what happened last time when Bitcoin went from, what was it? A few $1,000s to $20,000 in a month, 5,000 to 20,000 in a month from mid-November to mid-December. So you want to have a ticket to that train. Ethereum was even more so. If we go back and have a look at those prices, it went from what are we here? $500 or $300 in December to $1,500 by January, a month later. So you don't want to miss these moves, and that's where you can, if you've made life-changing amounts of money, doesn't really matter if you sell a little bit here, maybe you sell another 10% here, maybe you wake up and go, wow, another 10% here. You've made awesome money. There's no right or wrong time to sell. A lot of people get caught up where their favorite trader says, oh, this is the top. There's no way it can keep going higher, and they sell 100% of their stack. And then they watch it go here, and they panic buy back in, and then it starts to fall again. They sell here, and then it takes off, and they buy back here. And all of a sudden, within 2 or 3 trades, they've been chopped up, and they're worse off than if they had just held. And markets keep going higher, and people do FOMO. So that's kind of that situation, the sentiment, the psychology, the on-chain metrics are very, very clear that, like I just mentioned before, very few people are selling. The only people that really even sold in this capitulation were the newer hands that bought around 14,000 or bought up here. So that's all super positive. We're on the precipice of this bull market, and I don't think people are just going to sell when it goes to even 20,000. Do you know what I mean? If you've been here for a long period of time and you've heard about all these other big cycles and people making money, you want to see where this can go. You're excited. You're not just going to sell at 20k. Once we get above there, the sky's the limit. I honestly think we'll go to 30 very quickly once we get through 20. And then I don't want to predict too far ahead because it depends on what's happening with the macro and the money printing and negative interest rates. Sorry, guys. But I do think we either go to 70 or 80,000 in this cycle. Then I think the big question becomes, are they going to try and make this illegal? Are they going to embrace it? Are some countries going to embrace it and not others? That's where the question mark comes in these next few years about how steep that curve is. Does Bitcoin enter a prolonged bull market after maybe say touching 70,000 or 100,000? Does it have for the first time, a 3-year bear market before the next leg up? These are just complete unknowns where there's not a lot of point forecasting super long term. But that's probably most of what I want to share at the moment. Let's definitely keep an eye on the DXY to see if this is going to turn lower, because this is a beautiful trend line as well here. And if this is another rejection and we lose these lows, that definitely gives permission for Bitcoin, gold and silver to run. Watching Bitcoin dominance to see if it is going to be that sponge that takes money off alts to have this big push through these key resistances, because it's kind of like, everyone aboard, all hands on deck. We need all that money to push through. And then what we can see again, like in the past, I think I spoke about it during this period, is when Bitcoin is ranging, it only takes $1 billion to come out of Bitcoin to flow into alts. And because they've got such small market caps, $1 billion going into a scattering of altcoins can pump them, particularly when you consider the real volumes of some of these coins. So that's how a small amount of money can make a huge difference in a lot of these coins there. And when Bitcoin's ranging, like it did there, we had a beautiful time with our alt season. Look at Ethereum, the run that it had. That definitely led the pack. Ethereum and DeFi led the pack. This is a topping pattern though, a bit of a complex head and shoulders. We're joking in the group the other day about head and shoulders patterns. And yes, you can have these things with two shoulders or even two heads, like us Tasmanians. And in terms of the volume profile here, this does have the profile of a sell-off coming. So high volume here, high sell volume, high volume here on these legs down, and we're waiting to see. This is picking up a little bit, but if this ends up being fairly high volume, then we probably do break down here, I'd say. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It all goes in ebbs and flows. It all goes in cycles. Ethereum is going to outperform Bitcoin again at some stage. They take it in turns of taking the lead. I might take some questions and have a look at the comments you guys have got, but I hope that does make sense. With the really important stuff that I wanted to get through to you was all about these traders and investors that are going to sell too early. And you might think that me saying, Bitcoin going to 100,000 is wild, or $1 million in the next 10 years. That might seem absolutely wild. But people are going to sell too early. I know people that bought Bitcoin for $1 and sold it at $2. There's always those people, and just because number goes from A to B, it doesn't mean that people made, A to B % worth of gains. So keep that in mind. Hopefully that all makes sense. A lot of people thought I was an idiot for not selling all my Ethereum that I bought for, $6 at $1,400. Or, the Bitcoin that I bought dollar cost averaging in back in the day at $30, at $300, $700. But people forget that my target for Ethereum was $100. I thought if Ethereum can ever get to $100, I'd be, wildly happy. That would be the best investment I've ever made. I would have made my family money, helped out my dad. We're going to go back far enough here. No, we're not. Where's Bitfinex? Weekly chart. Okay, so this is about as good as you're going to get. The Ethereum ICO was around 20 cents from memory. 18, 17, 16, so around 20 cents back in 2015 is kind of roughly, that. I'm not sure how freely traded it was back then, but something like that. Now, I'm having Mike Novogratz on the show soon, and he's got a wild story about when he tried to buy Ethereum at $1, came back from a conference and it had already gone to $2. And he wanted to buy, I don't know how many millions of dollars worth, but Joe Lubin wouldn't sell to him. So that's going to be a great interview. I was meant to do it today, but he called me and he's actually half naked in bed in some other country doing business. He said, "Alex, how you going? We'll have to reschedule. I'm not live on YouTube, am I?" I said, "No, Mike, you're right. Lucky you got pants on. You didn't have a top on." Sidetracked, Alex. So what I was talking about here was, even when I got into Ethereum, and a lot of people got super excited when it got up to, it doesn't show it here very well. Ethereum got up to well over $20, or at least in Aussie dollars, it was nearly $30, I think. And then the Dow happened and it crashed down to $5 or $6. So that was the opportunity to buy more. And if my goal of $100, if I had have sold when that happened, I would have sold all my Ethereum here. As luck would have it, I didn't sell any because it was just watching the news roll in and watching the number of Reddit users grow, the number of YouTube channels, Facebook groups, everything was just aligning, and it was almost that euphoria. Even during these pullbacks, I just remember being so confident that it felt like, oh, this is actually happening. Everything that Vitalik spoke about and that I read about, the first ever video that I watched, let's just type in Ethereum and see if it brings it up. Here we go. Ethereum, the world computer. Do you guys want to watch this now? Why not? Oh, let's see if the price is breaking out. We're getting very close. We'll watch this while we watch price breakout. What do you say? Here we go. Is anyone else trading? Let me know in the comments. I do have a trade on at the moment. Long on Bitcoin, because I do believe, like I spoke about before, that Bitcoin is going to act like a sponge.
Or the internet.
And I might put my headphones in if we're going to watch this together. Bit of nostalgia. I'll take some questions in a sec, guys, but let's have a walk down memory lane and imagine how excited I was watching this video when it came out, July 2015.
Work in the future.
I hope you can.
How will the internet work in the future? It will use Ethereum. Ethereum is a planetary scale computer powered by blockchain technology. Applications built on Ethereum run exactly as programmed, without any possibility of downtime, censorship, or third-party interference. Ethereum is the secure backbone for everything from e-commerce to the Internet of Things, enabling transparent governance for communities and businesses while keeping user communication secure. Mix, the Ethereum IDE, makes it easy to develop, debug, and deploy your applications, while building UIs is done using your existing web development skills, tools, and favorite frameworks. Ethereum handles user authentication and secure payments for you, as well as messaging and even decentralized storage. And there's no need to sign up or pay for servers to host your applications, as Ethereum is the world's first zero infrastructure platform, allowing your users to regain control over the management of their own funds and personal data. Join the many already developing on Ethereum.
There you go. So July 2015, Ethereum was a couple of dollars. And I don't think this is something that gets spoken about enough, was the fact that Bitcoin was in a bear market. And I think Ethereum it kind of led the technology, I guess you could say, out of that bear market a little bit. Because I don't know if there was necessarily a catalyst. And a lot of the banks were talking about how they were going to start using blockchain technology and all that. So Ethereum comes out July 2015. and it has a lot of issues and whatnot. And then things really started to get on track, and Ethereum's price really pumped. And that's kind of, I think, what got Bitcoin going as well to some degree. Got a lot of people interested in Bitcoin. Alrighty, I think we're almost definitely going to go here. I mean, this was the thing that I was worried about just before. This 4 hour, this is a terrible looking candle. If you're going to put in a top, it would have been this one. And we've recovered pretty strongly here. This is a reversal pattern straight away. Little hammer, little doji, engulfing candle. We recovered it all back straight away. The bullish volume here is still outweighing, this corrective or sell volume. Everything is looking pretty good, to be honest. That can all change in a heartbeat with a Trump tweet, though, can't it? All right, let's have a look at a few of these comments. I hope you guys have learned something, a little bit of nostalgia, but my plan to sell is going to be based off a wide range of metrics. So things like on-chain data with our active addresses. I talk to all the Australian exchanges about how many people are signing up. You get a feel for the commissions and the number of affiliate links. Someone has signed up to your old Coinbase link. Someone has signed up to this, that, or the other. The brokers, when you're referring people, and you start to see those numbers come through. So that's probably where you get a really good feel for everything that is happening in the space, along with things like Google search terms. You can look at the web traffic and visits. Are people visiting Coinbase and CoinSpot, local Bitcoin volumes from around the world, the on-chain moving of old dormant coins. That's the really big one. Let's just have a look at days destroyed. Let's bring that up on a 5-year time frame. So what you can see here is days destroyed. A lot of people selling at the bottom. No, that's not what I want. There's a better one. There's a better metric that shows when the old coins have moved for the first time in years. And what's that's telling you is that there's older people that are taking profits and moving their coins because they've had them, they've hodled them, then they send them to an exchange and they move them. So we can look at things like, let's see if it's under exchange flows. Yeah, so we did get peaks here, didn't we? A lot of people were sending to exchanges to sell in these early peaks. Here. It's still not the best ones. There's another one that's fantastic. Profit and loss. So here we can see the percent of people that are in profit or loss from when they last bought or when the coins last moved. It's trying to search that, is it? No. I'm sure it's called gains or losses. Active addresses, direct circulation. No, social. No, I can't find any of the ones I want at the moment. Am I signed in? Yeah, I'm signed in. Right, I'll take a few of your questions before I forget. But I'm frustrated that I can't find that now. Profits and losses. I'm sure that's there. I was only looking at it the other day. It's always the way, isn't it? When you want something, you can't find it. No. Bugger. Wonder if it's just not there for CRO. If it's there for Bitcoin. Maybe that's it. Oh, that is going to do my head in now. Anyway, let's get over and have a look at the breakout while I read your questions. Okie dokie. Thank you all for tuning in, by the way. 443 thumbs up. Thank you very much. 1,000 watching, only 3 thumbs down. There's always a few of you that give me a hard time in the comments. So we'll let those 3 through to the keeper. Anyone watching the IMF with Power last night? Yeah, I did watch that. That was very interesting. And I think it was basically a green light. I did a write-up for members the day before saying how the Fed almost can't afford to be negative towards crypto or blockchain anymore because they're behind China. They've almost got to make it look like they're being friendly towards the technology and innovation because they want to embrace it and want to let that happen because they haven't actually got something themselves. Whereas China can almost afford to be a little bit like, oh, you've got to use ours because they do have something. And obviously because of their government, their structure and whatnot as well. But I'd be very, very surprised if the Fed come out and, they just can't ban crypto now. The genie's out of the bottle. There's too much money, regulation. It's all heading in the right direction. I don't mind Celsius. I don't really have a dog in this fight, guys. I'd love it if you were all confident enough to use DeFi, and I did the DeFi super tutorial the other day. But I do think Celsius has kind of become the best of the CeFi platforms. Even Binance have got pretty good return rates now, but you've got to put your trust in the exchange. So not your private key, not your keys, not your coins. Downside prediction for ETH. Even if the ETH BTC ratio goes down, guys, that doesn't necessarily mean that price is going to get hurt. Maybe we'll have a bit of a correction, but hopefully you've been taking profits, and it could just range like Bitcoin had that range that we just saw. If Ethereum ranges for a little while, that's not the worst thing. But I think alts, it's the other alts that you've got to worry about because it works both ways. A little bit of money going in makes these things pump hard. And we did very well. Look at that list of coins and projects that we covered recently, the DeFi themes. And I was saying for weeks and weeks on end, take profits, take profits, take profits. And I know most of our members did that, and you're very happy now that you're increasing your Bitcoin position, and we get to enjoy it. So I want this to blast off. I don't want I want $1,000 daily candle. That you guys know how much I've been waiting for this to happen. I just think people forget how small of a market cap we are. I put those charts up where we look at the trillions of dollars of negative yielding bonds. We look at things like M2 money supply. Just another casual. What was it this year? It's gone from 15 trillion to nearly 19 trillion. These are just astronomical numbers. 1,000 times bigger than this Bitcoin market cap. So less 0.1% of that goes into Bitcoin, and it can double. This is why I just kind of laugh when the traders are joking about, well, I'm going to sell at 11.8. Well, there's a lot of guys at the moment that are on the sidelines because they are wanting that one more leg down we spoke about. And this is where they are forced to chase the market higher. They're the perfect ingredients for a bull run, rather than when everyone is buying and everyone is bullish and everyone's talking about 20k. That normally means that everyone's already on the same side of the boat. And that can happen again. We could get to 14,000 by this weekend and everyone's euphoric on Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. But the thing that can be different this time is that we didn't have a steady stampede of new people coming in. And I think that's kind of started. So once that starts, that changes everything that we spoke about at the start of the video. Talk about wallet organization. Well, in MetaMask, in the super tutorial, I spoke about that in depth the other day. So I spoke about having a different MetaMask account for each page that you want to use or each thing that you want to do. So you might have a gaming wallet, a DeFi wallet, those type of things. What are the green arcing divisions? Some people will call them humpy bumps, but the official name is time cycles. So you'll find them down here. They're not an indicator. They're a tool, and you've got to align them yourself. So that's kind of a skill. It's like drawing trend lines. You've got to learn how to draw them and align them and try and find and identify cycles. Is it true ETH2 might take 2 or 3 years to be fully functional? Yeah, definitely a possibility. But it's already, a lot of people don't realize that there's already half a dozen of the best projects that have implemented scaling that's going to take them to 1,000 transactions per second. So a lot of the problems have kind of already been solved, in my opinion. Does it present opportunity for things like ADA? Sure, but I mean, does ADA have all the tools and all the projects and all the network effects? It just doesn't yet. Maybe they are going to get that in some countries and that, but yeah, not happening yet. Do I see a 10% stock market crash? It all depends on the on this funding. If they're going to pass the stimulus, and they gave themselves 48 hours yesterday or 2 days ago, so today's the last day, I believe, to get that through. I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Thank you again for the donation. I wouldn't touch Hex, no. There's far more better places to park your money. Guys, I will talk to you again very soon. I hope you've enjoyed that. That was an hour long of going over some thoughts about what's it going to feel like and how's it going to play out in the bull market. Just a quick note that our website is going under that big upgrade at the moment. So that should be back online any day now. And if you're waiting to sign up, just punch in your details and we'll get in touch with you and let you know when it's all good to go. But very exciting times. Bring on this bull market. Let's see if we can break out tonight. I hope we can. And thanks for joining me, guys. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll talk to you again soon. Cheers.